I want to talk about the power forward position, Saul Bookman. All right, here's the thing with Arizona. With Arizona, think about in the all throughout the during Tommy Lloyd's entire tenure, what has been the one position where you're like, man, that's probably been a strength of the team?
Probably power forward.
Right, power forward, and they are dramatically different players. You look at an Azuolas Tubelis, scorer, not necessarily the best defender in the world, pretty savvy from a passing perspective, good dude. Then you look at Keshad Johnson, didn't really have those kind of qualities. A defender, a pretty good open 3-point shooter, an all-conference defensive guy. Yeah, that is something that I think this coaching staff has very, very has a good vibe on. Saul, what do you think about that? Then we're going to talk about Trey Townsend here in a second.
Yeah, no, I love that point that you brought up when we were talking before the show about power forwards. When you look at the team, I feel like Tommy Lloyd feels like the power forward position gives him the most flexibility and the least expectation, if you will. Right. Because there's certain requirements for the other positions that he just needs out of those positions. You know, your point guard and your center, they got to be the anchors of the team. And then your shooting guards and your small forward, they got to be, solid defenders, but also they got to be able to score. A power forward can give you a little bit of versatility both ways, as we've seen with these last two players. And I think Tommy Lloyd's kind of identified that could be, you get the right power forward in the mix and it can make a world of difference.
What's interesting too about the power forward position is you can get guys that are athletic and that are more of a facilitator. You can also get guys that can defend a multitude of positions. You can also get guys that can shoot the three. You can get guys that that can finish around the rim. It's a very versatile position. Yeah. And I think you're going to see that this year with Trey Townsend. Trey Townsend coming in was the Horizon League Conference Player of the Year at obviously. And you saw him, what he was able to do in the tournament for Oakland. He dropped 31 and 13 on North Carolina State, which made the Final Four, 17 and 11. But the other thing that is very appealing about him is his assist numbers. Averaged almost 4 assists per game. And I will say this, I would not be surprised if he challenges for the team lead in assists. That is something from a facilitator perspective that I think they're going to see a lot of. And honestly, I would not be at all surprised if this guy flirts with about 4.5 assists per game. This is going to be the next one, I think. I think in my opinion, I think you're going to see a all-conference type power forward pretty much every year that Tommy Lloyd's here. And if there's not, then I think that probably something went wrong along the way.
I mean, that's a high bar in the Big 12 with as many good teams as there are. So, if we miss one year, I'm not gonna panic. But yeah, I get your point for sure. Listen, that's the pitch to Trey Townsend to come here is like, listen, we're going to put the ball in your hands. You're going to have opportunities to score. You're going to have opportunities to be a playmaker. You're going to have opportunities to play at a high level with a high program and show off your skills and try to get yourself to the NBA. That's the pitch. And if you're Trey Townsend, you'd be a fool not to come to Arizona and do that. He's got good players around him. He's going to be able to have the creative freedom to a certain degree within the scheme of the offense to be able to do what he wants to do. And that's very appealing. So if you're Arizona, putting the ball in his hands is not a bad idea. It's going to benefit us ultimately anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And there's something to be said too about, I get people that are like, oh, we only shot 47% from the field. Listen, when you're the main man on a team, Saul Bookman, you were one of the main men playing basketball when you were growing up.
No.
But it is different. It's different when you're going into a game against Kentucky and they're like, all right, well, that's the dude down low. That's the best player. That's the conference player of the year. Or North Carolina State. When you got 2 or 3 guys hanging on you, it's going to be different. And you look at his games, whether it was against Xavier, whether it was against Illinois, whether it was against, obviously the 2 teams we just mentioned. When he played big time competition, he almost always got that 17 and 11, that 18 and 12 with a couple assists. That's something that you either have or you don't. We've seen a lot of guys that, you can beat up on UM Meredith or UM Methodist, whatever, some school. That's still not a school either, but some school in the SUNY conference. How about that?
Okay.
That always amuses me. But go ahead, Saul Bookman.
No, I was gonna say I'll say this to your point. It was much harder for me growing up playing against teams that we know we should just easily beat. than it was to play against top tier competition, because typically when you were playing the lesser teams, they always threw some weird janky shit at you, and you weren't really prepared for it, because you just they had to, because that was the only way that they could try to compete, is by throwing weird ass things at you that you hadn't seen. So to his defense, playing in that league, in the Horizon League, and being the center of attention for that team, plus they had that outside shooter too, that 3-point shooter that was really ridiculous in the tournament as well. Those two guys were the key guys for those guys, for those teams. So they would get double, triple teams sometimes. Sometimes they'd full court press, sometimes they wouldn't. When you're playing at Arizona, teams don't have the luxury to just focus on one or two guys. Your squad is always deep. You're always going to go 7 or 8 deep. It's not like, what they have at ASU when they only have like 1 or 2 guys that can actually score and everybody else misses layups, right? So like you are a bona fide player when you come to Arizona, and you can spread the wealth. So the focus is not as weird or as intense on you as it normally would be.
What I also like, too, is that Lloyd has shown, too, that he can get players to adapt to different styles. Look at what Keshad Johnson was when he was at San Diego State. He was basically just kind of a junkyard dog. 7 points, 5 rebounds. And again, it's not like that's a bad thing. I mean, you need that role. But Tommy Lloyd told him, listen, you come here and you will probably you're going to become a better NBA prospect. I can't guarantee anything. But we're also going to be able to let people show that you can do more than just get the hustle, the bike knee pads, elbows, and stuff. That you're going to be able to get some of that. And look at Keshad Johnson now is going to be drafted. He wasn't on any draft boards at this time last year, obviously. He's going to be drafted as possibly a 3-and-D type guy, Saul. And that was not anything that was in the cards at this time last year. So Lloyd knows what he's doing. And I think he's also got a very good knack for being able to find out what is part of their skill set they haven't been able to show necessarily yet. I think you're going to see that with Trey Townsend. Dude gets it when he's talking about transfer, especially big men.
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%. Keshad Johnson is a fantastic example of why you come to U of A, is because, again, like you said, San Diego State got all the way to the national championship, lost to UConn, but you didn't really know who he was. He was one of 8 other guys that averaged 7 and 5. But he comes here, and again, his development through this system over the course of the year, you saw him get more and more and more comfortable. You got to see his athleticism. You got to see his defensive skills in a different kind of way, not just a pack in kind of way. And his 3-point shooting was much improved from where it had been, and that's exactly what you want to see. So he improved his offensive stock. His defensive stock was always there. He's going to make an NBA team very, very happy. I promise you that. If he finds his way onto any NBA roster, he feels like a Miami Heat type of player.
He feels like a Heat player.
He feels like a Heat culture type of dude.
Yes.
So yeah, I when you're looking at Trey Townsend, now Trey doesn't struggle so much on the offensive side. The defensive side is where he's going to have to improve a little bit. So it's kind of opposite for him. Can he do that? I'm interested to see.
I'm interested to see too. I'm also interested to see too. I like guys that can get buckets. When the going gets tough in the NCAA tournament, listen, things slow down. Not everybody is UConn where you're just like 25 points better than everybody else. Things start to slow down to a certain degree, and you got to have some guys who can get buckets. We saw that with Jaden Bradley when Arizona played Clemson. It just helps. I think Trey Townsend is hopefully going to be that guy.